Worried about your friend but don't know how to reach out?
You could say how are you or get a fake tattoo. You could ask with an app if it works for you. You could chat with them in VR. It's all good if you think you should check in. Yeah, you should.
Whatever gets you talking.
Reach out to a friend about their mental health.
Whatever gets you talking.
Learn how you can help at seizetheawkward.org.
Hi there. I want to talk to you about Woodstock. If you're planning on moving to Georgia, this might be a city that you will love. It has that feel of a small town, however, it has lots of amenities. It's a great place to grow family, and it is an area which is close enough to downtown Atlanta. However, you still have all the small town life, right? So people love Woodstock because you can buy a property here for less than other big cities and have that access to restaurants, museums, parks, and all that you would like to have close by your house. Also, they do have the outlet malls where people love to go shopping at, and everything is very close. However, it's just a small area within the town that has all the amenities. It's a very residential town, and like I said, it's only maybe 40 minutes from the airport. I'm going to give you all the information about Woodstock, but you might consider this town since it has that small town feeling. However, it has all the amenities that you might enjoy, you and your family. So stay tuned, watch the video, like it if you like the information that I'm bringing you, and follow me for other information about real estate. Hi everyone, welcome to my show. I'm Ineabelle Duvall, and I am a real estate broker in the state of Georgia. Today we are going to be talking about real estate matter that has to do with divorce and inheritance. For that, I have here Vinny Marino from Marino and Associate with us. He is a real estate attorney, and he is going to talk to us about all the details that have to do with this type of situations. And I also have Nereida Claudio, which is a loan officer, to give us some insight on what do we need to do when we are going through these situations. So do you guys want to say hi?
Yep. Hey, thanks for having me here today. It's a pleasure speaking with you on these topics. Look forward to it. Hopefully give people some insight on these different issues.
And thank you so much for having me, Ineabelle. It's a pleasure being here. Hopefully I answer any questions that are related to a mortgage when people are faced with those type of scenarios.
Perfect. Thank you so much for taking time and being here with us to give some information to our clients. Usually when I receive people at the office, they all have different situations, and even we don't discuss these topics very often on real estate shows. I think it's important that people have the right information from the professionals that has to do with that. I could help you find a house, I could help you sell a house, but when it comes to topics like divorce, you better talk to an attorney, because that's legal advice that should come from somebody that is an expert on that topic. And I have to say that Merino and Associates are always helping our clients. That's why we use them all the time. They're everywhere in the state of Georgia, and they're very accessible to our clients. I'm very grateful for that. Yes, every time we have a question, we just have to shoot an email, a quick call, and we get an answer quickly. So, talking about divorce, what are the most common challenges or questions that people bring to you when they are having to sell a house, or when there is a divorce as part of the transaction?
Yeah. So a lot of times we'll uncover a divorce in the transaction. When we start the transaction, we send out a seller information sheet to the sellers. At that point, they'll let us know that they're in a pending divorce or recently just went through a divorce. But even if they don't disclose that, when we run what's called a title search on the property, we'll uncover that as well. So I would say like the biggest question, or one of the biggest things with a divorce is for us to conduct the closing. That divorce has to be finalized, essentially. So they have to have already, both spouses have to have already signed a settlement agreement, which is like agreement between the parties on how assets are going to be distributed or amongst themselves or split up. And that has to be finalized with a court order, pretty much ratifying the settlement agreement. So, like I said, if there is a pending divorce, it's still ongoing. It hasn't been finalized. They haven't even signed a settlement agreement yet. We really can't go forward with the closing until that's finalized. So the divorce pretty much has to be finalized beforehand. I would say one of the biggest things is you get people that it could be, obviously two spouses that are divorcing. Let's just say there's a house that one spouse is trying to sell, where they're the only ones on title to the home, which means that they're the only actual owners by name on that house. They may think, okay, well, I own it outright in my own name. I should be able to just go ahead and sell it. It doesn't matter that I'm in the middle of a divorce now. It's my name on the house. Well, unfortunately, we get those situations a lot. We have to tell the person that's selling the house or the agent that's representing them, like, listen, it's in a divorce. So even though it's solely in your name, that asset could still potentially be what's considered a marital asset. The other spouse can make a claim to it through the divorce. Since that's the case, we have to still wait until it's finalized, because that house could be, considered a marital asset, and who knows, the other spouse may have an interest in the house, even though they're not a named owner or on title to the house. So that's definitely something, a topic, probably the most common topic that we deal with as far as people trying to sell the home that are in the middle of a divorce and it's not finalized yet.
Okay, so what I get from what you're saying is, if, for example, I have a client that owned a property before they got into the marriage, and if this property is only on their name, even though the spouse is not part, it doesn't have any participation on that title, on that loan, it still has to be part of the negotiations of the divorce before it comes to you as a closing attorney?
Yep. So, that's something that we get hashed out hopefully before the closing comes to us, between the spouses that are getting divorced and between their own attorneys. They're going to be the ones that figure out, okay, is this a marital asset that's subject to distribution, or is it going to, the one person that it's named, are they fully entitled to it? And so that's when you kind of get into them signing the settlement agreement, where they both sign off on, okay, this house belongs to them, the divorce, it's not going to get distributed. So all that kind of happens hopefully before the closing comes to us. Hopefully that's all finished and finalized, because when they go to try to sell it, us as a closing attorney will review, we'll see that's in a pending divorce, and we review the settlement agreement and the final divorce decree from the judge. We review that to make sure, that it's being done properly, essentially. Because if we don't review that, let's say someone sells it, but it wasn't a divorce, that could potentially be an issue for the buyer that bought it. That's why it's important for, a buyer to buy title insurance, but that's a whole different topic we can talk about. But you're pretty much not able to deliver clear marketable title, which would be an issue if it's in the middle of a divorce and we didn't, do the necessary checking the divorce settlement agreement and everything like that. So that's something that we definitely look at to make sure everything's good to go. So hopefully, like I said, it's done before it gets to us. But we have had instances where everyone's they're ready to sell it. One person's ready to sell it. They got a closing date scheduled in a couple weeks or so. We get title back. We're like, listen, the divorce isn't finalized yet. You guys don't even have a signed settlement agreement yet. We can't do anything until you guys get that to us. So that does happen.
Okay, so it's important that you get information, that you get to a closing attorney and you discuss all this also with your divorce attorney, to be sure that everything is clear, everything is disclosed. So when it comes to them for the closing of the sale of your property, you don't have to stop or delay the process just because you try to skip one step or you try to sneak, and at the end they're going to find out, because the title search and all the due diligence that they do to ensure that your interest is protected and the buyer's interest is protected, that after the closing nothing is going to come up that will affect you as a buyer or as a homeowner. So everybody's interest is look into, to the max, right?
Yep.
To be sure that when the transaction is done, it's legal and it won't have any negative repercussions. So, Nereida, what is your experience with this type of situations in terms of divorced couples and the loan?
Yeah, a lot of times, and thank you for that, a lot of times I get questions where people are in the midst, right? And I think a lot of couples, regardless of whatever side they're on, if I do hear that they're in the middle of a divorce, that's one of the things that I disclose to them as well, is that, okay, legally you're not going to be able to do anything with this property, whether, it's refinancing to pay out your spouse, or whether it's putting that house on the market with your realtor, you're legally not going to be able to do anything until that divorce is finalized. But where I can play a really good role is a lot of times talking to couples and letting them know how much they'll qualify for after the divorce. Maybe just on that one income, maybe with the proceeds of the sale of the home, or a lot of couples want to buy out one or the other, right? Somebody wants to stay at home, particularly if there's children involved that are in the same school district. That's an important topic, right? So, sometimes, what I do see is when I do get divorce settlements, where it's saying that the person needs to refinance to their name only, we just go through the same measures that we would do to qualify anybody else, but really just giving the spouses or the soon-to-be ex-spouses clarity on kind of what life looks like after the divorce. So a lot of times it's just that counseling and that advising that you do for a couple so that they can plan accordingly once that divorce is final.
Okay, perfect. It is important that you are sure that if you plan to stay in the house, that you can really afford, right, the payment and the expenses related to keeping the property. Because even though when you as a couple decide, okay, you keep the house and you move forward with it, are you really in the financial situation where you can keep up with the expense? So that's why a divorce is not only a situation where you have to look at what is it that you and your spouse, soon to be ex-spouse, agree upon, but all the other things that are involved, like financing, legal, process of it. And of course, we are all professionals here in Georgia, and we work with teams. So if you need any kind of advice that has to do with real estate, on financing, or on the legal process, or on putting your house to sell in the market, or anything related to real estate, you can reach out to us. On this video, we are going to put the links on the bottom, on the description, so you can reach each one of us if we can be of a help. So that was a very interesting conversation about divorce. I learned a lot. I don't know you, but if you have any more questions that we didn't answer, feel free to put it in the comments, and we will answer your questions at our earliest convenience. And now let's talk a little bit about inheritance. So let's say that my parents passed away and they left the house, and I have siblings. Do I just say, okay, I inherit this house, it's mine, and I can do whatever I want with it? Or there's a process to follow?
Yeah, so unfortunately, some people, we get that as well. You get a child of, let's say, that scenario where their parents pass away, they automatically think, oh, well, I'm entitled to the house. I can, just go ahead and put it on the market and try to sell it. And then, of course, what happens is, if you have an agent that is unaware of the situation, they don't do their own due diligence, they just assume that you own the house and can sell it. They send the contract to us as the closing attorney. We run title, and lo and behold, the parents or the one parent still owns the house in their name. So in that scenario, you do have to probate the estate most likely. So you would have to go. So the child would have to go through the probate process, because the only way that you can sell that home is if you're appointed by the courts to be an administrator or an executor. The two differences of that is in Georgia, you're called an executor if you probate an estate and there was a will involved, you're an executor. Or if the person died without a will, if they died intestate, you would be the administrator. And so it's called letters of testamentary for an executor, letters of administration if you're an administrator. So you have to file a petition with the courts to probate, and then the courts will sign off on those letters, giving you as executor or administrator the powers to be able to sell the home. So you would just sell it as the administrator or the executor for the estate of whoever owned the house. So yeah, and in those situations, you're going to want to set up, and a lot of agents may not know this on the front end, or even the executor, the administrator is selling it. Because a lot of times, let's just say someone's just the executor, the administrator selling it, but let's say that they're not only are they entitled to proceeds from the house per the will or just per intestate succession, but their siblings are entitled to it too. So a lot of times we get people like, oh, just give us the proceeds in our personal account. And we're like, no, we can't do that, since the actual seller is the estate, not you as the executor or you as the administrator individually. It has to go to an estate account. So a lot of people don't know that you have to open up an estate banking account in order to take in those proceeds. Because legally we can't give it to one person who's entitled to it, because we could be on the hook for that, because it has to go to an estate account, and then as the executor or administrator through that estate account, that's when you would equally distribute and disperse everything according to the will or intestate succession. So that is one thing that I come across a lot. People kind of fight us on it, like, oh, I don't want to have to go open a bank account. It's really not that difficult. Once you get those letters of administration or letters of testamentary, you just go online to the IRS's website, you apply for a tax ID number. It takes a couple minutes. It's just a thing you fill in, it generates you a tax ID number. You take the letters, tax ID number to any banking institution, and you can open up a bank account. It's really not that difficult. So that happens a lot. And then another thing with inheritance, I think, is really important for people to know is if you're entitled to a house, you're an owner of the house, and someone else is an owner of the house, and the one person passes away. So a lot of times the other person just automatically assumes, okay, well, it's just all mine now. Well, that would be true if you are a joint tenant with right of survivorship. So if you're a joint tenant with right of survivorship on a house with someone else, that means when one person passes, that their interest automatically transfers to you, and now you do own the house wholly. You can sell it, do what you want with it. But there are situations where if your deed is a tenant in common, if you guys are tenant in common with each other, that's not the same scenario. If you're a tenant in common and not a joint tenant, one person dies, you're now the sole survivor, that interest goes to that person's estate. It doesn't automatically go to you. So even if you would be fully entitled to, let's say it's a spouse scenario, let's say you're the only heir and you would get that percentage anyways, you would still have to probate that estate to be able to sell that 50%. So a lot of people and it's just a matter of how the deed was when you bought the house. If you're a joint tenant, it would say something like joint tenants with right of survivorship, not as tenants in common. But unfortunately, if it just as grantees, it's just your names, and it doesn't have that survivorship language, by default, you are a tenant in common. So you have to make sure, you have to look at your deed and make sure, especially if you're a married couple, you want to make sure that you are a joint tenant. So you want to look at your deed. They're public records. You can go get a copy of it. You want to make sure after your names, it says as joint tenants with the right of survivorship. And this becomes an issue with deeds that are a lot older. So the state of Georgia didn't recognize joint tenancies until 1977. So if you're elder and you're worried about that scenario and you bought that property back in, let's say, the early 70s, mid 70s, even late 70s, I would make sure to look at your deed to make sure. And if you're not, very simple, you can just execute a new deed to make you guys joint tenants. That's something that we can do for you as a very simple process. Just filing a new deed on record. But even though it didn't come to effect until 77, there's still a lot of deeds out there that are not joint tenant. Even throughout the 80s, it wasn't very customary for every deed. Nowadays, it's very customary. We make everyone joint tenants unless you tell us you want to be a tenant in common. But even through the 80s, even early 90s, even deeds nowadays, I still see from offices that are not joint tenants. And especially if you do like a homemade deed, just like if you're just quick claiming it to family members or giving it to someone, most likely if you're not doing it through an attorney's office, you may not know that. So you may not have that specific language on there to make yourself a joint tenant with the other person. So that's definitely something I always advise people to look at, especially with agents that are listing something. You just want to make sure if there is someone that passed away that was an owner, you want to make sure beforehand, before you even list it, before you even get entered into a contract, you want to make sure that you're able to, they're able to sell it. And that's something that I definitely let agents know that we work with. Just hit me up whenever. Send me an email, give me a call. I'll look into it for you before you even list it and let you know, okay, they're good to go and list it. Because I don't want agents to waste their time or anything like that. If they get under contract and lo and behold, the person has to go through probate or something like that. So definitely want to look at that beforehand before you get a buyer involved and everything like that. So.
Well, it's very customary, especially the last 2 years when the market was so competitive, that many people did a for sale by owner, and they thought, well, there's so much demand out there for properties, the inventory is low, I can sell my house, I don't need no realtor, nobody to help me sell the house. And this, what you just discussed, is one of the reasons why you have to work with a professional, because buying a home is one of the largest investment that you do in your life. So you want to be sure that your interest is protected. And for that, you do need a closing attorney. You need a title search. You need someone that is going to look to the history of that property and assure that you are not buying a problem. It's not only another owner. It could be taxes owed, liens, everything that only will show on the title, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's part of the closing process. Us as a closing attorney, we that's one thing we do. We order the title search. Me or one of the other attorneys in our office will review the title, make sure everything's clear and good to go. If there is stuff that is uncovered that we need to do, our office will work on resolving those things to clear up the title in order to get it to the closing date to transfer a clear marketable title. So that's definitely one of the biggest parts of us as the closing attorney, getting those things squared away.
Yes, I've seen in YouTube, I've seen a very popular minister and he is a motivational speaker, and he always talk about that happened to him. He was very poor, and he made all the sacrifices in the world to buy his mom a house. And when they moved into the house 3 days after, the city came knocking on the door and saying, you have to pay, I'm not sure the amount, but it was a high amount for just, a normal person. And they say you have 3 days to put the money together. I don't know, for 40,000, something like that. And of course, they couldn't do it. So they have to give away the house, lost all the money that he put together to buy his mom a house, and go through the embarrassment of having his mom move out of the house a couple of days after she was in the house. It was a very sad situation, but it happens. It happens because if you don't follow the process, if you don't hire the professionals, you don't let them do their job, then you are the one who's putting yourself, exposing yourself to get a spam and things like that. So I think this is a very good, a lot of good information. I'm sure there's so much more that we can discuss about this. I don't know if you have any questions for him or you have anything else to weigh in.
No, but I absolutely learned some things about, and the clear marketable title, right? On the mortgage side, that's one of the things that we wait for before a loan can legally close. So just, doing that title search, making sure that there's due diligence, making sure that there's no debt on that home. And, the heirs part is interesting, right? Because I know that you do the heir search, like if there is a death, doing a search to make sure that all heirs have been contacted if there isn't a will in place. So all the work that your firm does on the back end is just interesting. People don't know that. It's that silent work that happens on the back end for a lot of people.
Yes. Well, I want Vinny to give us the information about where are the locations where we can visit him and his phone number and all the good stuff. So you be sure that before you move forward with a divorce or if you are the heir of any property, that you have a consultation with them and be sure that you're doing things the right way just to avoid problems eventually. So share with us your contact information.
Yeah. So our main office is in Woodstock, Georgia. We have staffed office over in Swanee, which is over in Gwinnett County. One up in Jasper, Georgia, one down in Peachtree City. And then we have closing locations that we use all around the metro Atlanta area. So we got a pretty good foothold on the Atlanta and metro area as far as able to conduct closings.
It's 17 offices, right? Or 17 locations?
Yeah. We have a bunch of different locations. Yeah. And honestly, me myself, I'm very flexible too. I mean, as far as like people want to do a refi, I don't mind going to someone's house and stuff like that too. So I'm personally very flexible.
And just from a lender perspective, right? And that's just what I know about Marino. I don't get to choose the closing firms that we close with, but I know and I get to see the costs because on the mortgage side, I do check the cost for a lot of title companies, and I will tell you that Marino Law Firm is very competitively priced. And again, huge footprint. I think it is 17 offices or locations where they can close. But
Appreciate that.
Okay.
But so and then my our office number is 770-874-4600. My personal email is just Vinny, VINNY, at marinoandassociates.com. That's all spelled out, the and associates. And it's MERINO, so Vinny at marinoandassociates.com. And so we can definitely help you with anything as far as the closing process, even preventative things like estate planning on the front end to make sure everything's taken care of as far as real estate you have. Make sure everything's settled for your loved ones, and just like a setup, put property in a trust or anything like that. Or I can always just take a look at your existing paperwork, your deeds, make sure everything's good to go for how you want everything to flow if you were to pass. And then we also can help you out with probate as well. If you have any questions, that's my information. So feel free to contact me.
Awesome. Well, he gave us a little bit of all his knowledge. He has so much more to share with us, so give him a call. And I want also Nereida to share her information, and I want to say something about Nereida as well. I have a lot of clients that come to me because they want to purchase a house and they received an offer from their bank, and usually it's the bank with that they have their checking account, savings account, and yes, they give you an offer. However, these banks are not mortgage banks and mortgage brokers. And what is the difference? Well, with Nereida being a mortgage broker, you have many options and products to choose for. She's going to evaluate your situation and she's going to find what is the best fit for your finances, for your situation, and she's going to help you throughout the entire process until your loan gets approved. However, if you go to a main bank, usually they have a few products that they can offer you. It's not a one-on-one service, and they usually has a large volume of clients and transactions. So she puts her heart on what she does, and I would like for her to share her contact information, and I would like for you to consider working with her when you are thinking on buying a property.
Thank you, Ineabelle. My name is Nareda Claudio. I work for U.S. Mortgage. And yes, I act as a broker lender. I'm the one that answers the phone, and I'm the one person at the very end. I talk you through the process. I go through all your costs. I'm the person responsible, so there's no kind of handoff. I do have an assistant, but that's the big benefit, right? Is that, you're making a large purchase. You want someone that you're going to talk to throughout the process. Again, U.S. Mortgage, my name is Nereida, Nereida.Claudio @usmortgage.com, all run together. And my phone number, it's my cell phone that I have here with me. It's 678-267-3959. Thank you.
Great, great. And Nereida speaks Spanish. Habla español, just like me.
Claro que sí, gracias.
Yes, and when it's time to go to the closing table, we go to the closing. We translate for you. So nosotras vamos al cierre y traducimos para ustedes para que tengan entendimiento de todo el proceso
Claro
y
que
de
sí.
lo que están firmando.
Claro que sí. Lo sorprendente es que es el gasto más grande que van a hacer en su vida. Así que si hablan español y desean entender los números del punto financiero, pues con gusto estamos para atenderles.
Claro que sí. Well, thank you so much. I will leave also my contact information if you need a free evaluation of your house to see how much is the value of your house in the market right now. I can go. There's no charge, no obligation. I'll visit you. You just get me a cup of coffee. That's all I ask for. And I will give you tips on what to do to increase the value of your home. Like I said, no commitments, just a visit, and then you take it from there. Also, if you are thinking on buying a house, well, I would be happy to help you search in the market, negotiate for you, and guide you through the entire process until you go to the closing table and meet with these great people here with me. And the process of the closing and other good stuff that you don't want to miss. So stay tuned, follow us in social media, and thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Hey there, my name is Vinny Moreno. I'm an attorney here at Moreno and Associates. We're a real estate closing firm, primarily handling real estate transactions. We have an office here in Woodstock, Georgia, Peachtree City, Jasper, and Gwinnett, and multiple closing locations all around the area. Not only do we do real estate closings, we also do estate planning and probate, so we can help you with all of those matters as well. So yeah, if you want to set up a will or do a trust, power of attorney, healthcare directive, or a loved one has passed away and you're getting ready to probate their estate, we can certainly help you out with that. I like to tell people, don't wait until it's too late. Plan your estate. My contact is Vinny, VINNY, at MorenoandAssociates, all spelled out.com. So that's MERINO and spelled out, associate spelled out.com. Our office number is 770-874-4600. We look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Hi, my name is Narita Claudio, and I'm a lender with U.S. Mortgage. If you're interested in getting pre-qualified for a home or just understanding what your circumstances are, feel free to reach out. I'm a lender with U.S. Mortgage. I do loans all across the United States. There's just a few states that I'm not licensed in. And in general terms, I like talking to you about 6 months to a year before you're considering purchasing or selling a home, just so that I can give you numbers and information so that you're informed about your home purchase. Again, Narita Claudio, U.S. Mortgage, and you can reach out at 678-267-3959.